Good evening and welcome to Tuesday's Encounters in New York. This program is presented every Tuesday at 7 p.m. New York time on Zoom. My name is Mark Beecher and I'll be your host tonight. Our very special guest tonight is Carmel O'Sullivan, who is professionally the heart-to-heart medium, psychic, and healer. And we will learn how you can live in the heart and how your loved ones above help you along the way. So thank you for joining us tonight, Carmel, and we look forward to the discussion.
Hi, everybody. Hi, Mark. Thank you for having me on tonight. I really appreciate the invite. And every time I can talk about love, I'm a happy clam. So.
Yeah, we look forward to the discussion.
Do I want?
We lost you for a second.
I don't know why that is.
Yeah.
Oh.
Losing the video.
I don't know why it keeps bouncing me out, but somebody has fun having fun. Okay, I think I'm still here.
Okay. Very good. So where would you like this to start?
I can talk a little bit about myself. There I go again. I don't know why that keeps doing that. Your microphone has changed to Mac Pro. Hold on, your microphone has changed to Nextgo. Hey, Mark.
Well, yeah, we can hear you. It's just the video.
I'm going to see if taking off this thing right here, will that help? Let me see. I just don't have my lighting. How's that?
Well, it's good for 10 seconds.
We'll see. Let's hold our fingers and cross them here.
All right.
I've had this experience on a podcast before, but I like to just say who I am and how I got into this fun life of being a medium and a psychic. I found myself at 52 looking for more. I was told I was a healer all my life, and I would laugh at people and say, "Oh no, it's my friend next door to me. She's a nurse." And through that, I took a class in Reiki, which it kind of, I call it the opening portal for energy work and energy in general. And I believe everything is energy. And through that, I found out, I always knew I was psychic. I always told people things and they go, "How do you know that?" I go, just thought it was normal.
Okay.
I would predict things and people go, "God, that's crazy. That happened." And I'm like, well, I just shrug my shoulders and move on.
Yeah.
So long story short, I ended up working at local hospital here, walking the floors, doing healing touch. I went from Reiki to healing touch, which are two different types of bioenergetic therapy, but they're all the same. It's all about healing the energy center and bringing in coherence into the body. And with that, I started seeing loved ones who had passed on while I worked on the patient. And then when I started seeing them privately, I never shared it in the hospital, but privately, I started giving messages that were very validated. And I thought, well, this is really weird. And ended up finding it to be my passion. It's a gift of mine. I accepted it. I'm a Christian healer reader. I love Jesus. And but I honor all faiths, non-faiths, doesn't matter to me. And with that, I have found the main theme in my mediumship is always about love and the heart. So that is why I call myself the heart-to-heart medium, because it is always about love. To do this work, you must love the work and you must love going up and expending energy. You have to expend energy to go up. And for a person to come down and meet me halfway, as a medium, you're meeting in the middle. And they have to lower their energy and they have to bring that. Lowering feels different for them. They have to come out of love too, I feel. Almost every reading I get, there is always a semblance of love and beautiful, heartfelt messages and healing that occurs through my work. That's
Very
me.
good. So this is, I know very often we run into, as you said, it's something that you've had all your life, but maybe you didn't recognize as early as on that you could use it as a healing technique.
Right.
Yeah.
I did feel ghosts when I was little. People would touch me in the middle of the night and I didn't like it. So I cover up. No, no, no. And I had a lot of weird instances growing up that I experienced things I could not explain. Voices that would come out of speakers. I would hear their voice. I'm like, okay, am I crazy? And I had just strange happenings. And my houses were always a little bit creepy sometimes.
And why are we not all open to this kind of communication with?
Well, what I feel is this. I feel we all have the ability to connect to first to our higher self, which is our truest sense of soul energy. We do have a way of connecting to our loved ones who have passed. If you spend time sitting in quiet, looking for the weird things that happen around you that you can't explain, and asking. Now, I feel like I have a really good conduit. It's like how I explain it is everybody can draw art. Some people are stick figures, they draw, and some people draw masterpieces. And then some people who are middle of the road can learn to draw masterpieces. But we all have the ability to draw, just like we have the ability to hear, sense, feel, touch, and just know. I'm a claircognizant, but I'm all clairs. I teach it. I teach intuitive training. I teach mediumship. And I know when people lose their loved ones, a lot of the loved ones will come through and want to give messages or signs if you're looking for them.
Okay. And is there a particular way we can open ourselves up to?
Well, yes. I feel like, I find different ways people do open up. Like, say, there's different ways of meditating without knowing you're even meditating. Some people be washing the dishes and they might feel somebody come up from behind their husband and they're washing their dishes. Their hands are in the water. Water is a great conduit. And through that, they might feel that, and they're quiet because they're putting their whole purpose into getting that plate cleaned. And when you're in the quiet is when things happen. I can be in any room and read a room, but when I'm in my greatest space and my greatest reading time is when I'm up and I'm quiet and I'm listening. I wish I had the listening skills I have, which I have up there, down here, because I'm not a great listener down here. But my husband tells me that. So with that, it's when you're quiet. The smallest things, you could be taking a walk and you could be asking your person to come walk with you. Or sometimes they affect lights. So you're like, why is my light dimming? You have to look for the signs. Maybe you ask for a sign along the way. I'm a big believer in asking for signs and unusual signs.
Okay. Do the guys that watch over us, do they continually watch over us, or do they just check in from time to time?
Well, it's really funny. So you asked that question. I first believe that we have a guardian. I'm raised Catholic. I speak Catholicese, I tell people. And with that, I believe we have a guardian angel who always watches over us. But I know our loved ones can watch and see things that are happening in our lifetime. There is no time up there, but we're in time. And so with that, it's funny, I had a large group reading one night and I had a beautiful man come forward. He was a bowling guy. He liked to bowl. So he kind of comes in his bowling shirt, his bowling ball, and he gave me his name. And in the reading, this woman, it was for his daughter, who missed him terribly. And she validated everything. And all of a sudden he says to me, shows me singing in the shower. And I'm like, now, how do I mention that either he sings in the shower or you sing in the shower? And that means he's seeing you singing in the shower. So I'm like, do you sing in the shower? And the woman goes, yeah. She goes, I go, well, your father says, he said, he sees you singing in the shower, but doesn't see you. He sees your energy and hears your voice. And she laughed. She goes, my son told me to turn it down today because I was too loud in the shower. So they can see you. They can see your struggles. They can see clarity in situations where they come and bring messages for clarity. I also believe that they can bring messages to help heal wounds of a relationship between, for instance, I had really beautiful woman comes to see me, Hispanic, beautiful. And her grandmother comes in, told me what little town she lived in Mexico, and talked about the relationship because her grandmother raised her. And then this blonde-haired woman comes in and goes, I'm her mom. And I'm like, excuse me, do you have a blonde-haired mom? She goes, I do. And she looked kind of taken back. I said, she's here to talk to you about healing. And she goes, okay. And you could tell that she didn't want to hear from her. I got that feeling. Her mom began to talk about age 12. And I go, I need to talk to you about age 12. She keeps showing me the number 12, the 12, the 12. Do you understand that? Yes, I do, she says. So I said, she wants you to know that when she went up, she had to feel, and she kept saying physically, physically, physically in my mind's eye, emotionally, mentally, spiritually, everything I did to you at age 12, physically. She kept saying it over, and I kept telling her, whatever she did to you physically is what I feel. She wants you to know she felt it so she could say she's sorry to you now, because she didn't say she was sorry in life. And this woman now is crying. And she goes, she put me in the hospital at age 12. And I said to her, you need to heal this wound. She understands what she did to you now. So this is a time for healing. And it's for that woman to come down, to admit what she did, to say she's sorry, took an act of love. And it's all about love. My big thing is the way they leave this earth is about love. I had a very interesting, my sister was sitting for 7 months at her husband's bed, and he was withering. He wasn't doing well. And I would call her, and one day I'm in the grocery store. In the middle of the grocery store, I feel him right next to me. And I'm like, oh, you're here. You must have left. So I call my sister immediately, and I go, is Jim still with us today? And she goes, well, no, he's right here. He's right here with me. We're sharing time together. And I go, that's wonderful. And we're talking. We spent 15 minutes talking and laughing and just bringing up her light and my light. And then I say goodbye to her, hang up. And she calls me back about a minute later, and she goes, Carm, while we were talking, he died. And what I knew from that what he wanted was not to be alone in that room by herself. She wanted her sister. We're very close. And so he went out the back, Jack, while we were talking, is what I said. Right. And that was an act of love. He held on till I got the message. Call her. She doesn't want to be alone. And make it a beautiful ending.
Very nice. Very nice. I think I had a similar thing with my mother. I mean, and she'd been in a nursing home for better than a year, but she was her health was progressively fading, you know. So the last day I went and I sat with her. She was in a coma, but I sat with her for several hours. And then my brother and his family came in, and we were sitting, and she had labored breathing, and just for hours.
Oh yeah.
So it became evening, and it was like visiting hours were over, and so my brother said, well, we should go home, and we'll come back in the morning. She's been in the same condition for the last 8 or 9 hours, so she'll be, and so we went home, and took us like 15, 20 minutes. And by the time we got home, the nursing home called and said, your mother has passed away. So she wanted to be alone.
Many of them do. And I find that to be, maybe they don't want to burden the family to see them leave. Sometimes they need a little help. The funny thing is, Mark, when you think about that, when you're there, when somebody leaves this earth, think how close you are to heaven at that point. Right. You are the closest you'll ever be till you leave, most likely, unless you're in another death. And to me, that veil is open. And to me, it's the most sacred, beautiful time. So if you do have time to spend with a loved one who is passing, even if they're not passing that day, you're in the presence of heaven. It's beautiful.
Right. Yeah.
And I get called a lot from people to ask to come to help their loved one pass. It's usually not to help the loved one pass. They know what they're doing. It's to help the loved ones who are saying goodbye, to hold their energy, to make sure they understand that it's okay. It's going to be good. And it's not goodbye. It's just hasta la vista. And I do believe that. I see it all the time. And I think it's even closer than birth. When I think about birth, the soul's already in the baby, I believe. I don't know when, but I do believe you're closest to heaven when someone is passing in that beautiful hospice situation or death situation.
I know you mentioned that, well, the person wants to pass over, but do you deal with the souls that don't want to pass over, that they want to linger?
Oh yeah. Well, not linger. I don't know if some have lingered. I do clear houses. I don't do it anymore. I give it, I've trained other people to do it, so I don't have to anymore, but I do like to do my friends and family's houses to bless the house. I had a really funny one time, and I do believe it was another act of love. So here I am, I get a call from this beautiful woman, and she says, hey, my daughter's seeing a party being thrown in her room every night by this man and his buddies. And this was a homeowner. They had bought a home that was owned by the original homeowner builder. And I said, okay, well, let me, I'll come in. So as soon as I walk in the home, I feel the gentleman, and I feel like he's I called him the Rat Pack. I go, he feels like a Rat Pack guy, like a Dean Martin, martini in hand, tennis racket, tan. And I feel like business owner, definitely is the owner of the original house, I believe. So I'm clearing the house, and I'm halfway through, and all of a sudden I stop dead in my tracks, and I look at all of them because they're following me around as I clear. And I said, I have to know who this is. I don't even know why I'm asking it. I must know. The spirit's asking me to do it. So they go, well, we have title. They go and they search it out. They get the title, and they tell me the name. And I'm like, OMG. I know this man. He was a friend of my husband's. He was exactly the way I described him, a character. And I just had a conversation at that point and said, do you realize what you're doing here? And I had that conversation. He was coming back and forth. He loved that house, and he loved the parties he threw at that house. So for him, he was bringing his buddies from up above down to the party like he did in life. So cleared the house. It was all done. Never had a problem again. I called my husband on the way home, and I told him, you won't believe what happened. And I tell him the story. He goes, the only thing I ask you, Carm, don't bring him home. So yes, they do linger. Sometimes I had actually had a soul come into my basement. I had a young man visit me, and he had somebody hanging out with him who had passed away from a drug overdose. And I didn't know that at the time, but I felt it. And I figured out what was going on. I had another friend who was a medium come over too, and we both kind of put our minds on it. And he wouldn't leave. He liked hanging out with my daughters. And so what I ended up doing was sitting down, putting a chair down and another chair down in front of me, and asked him to come sit with me. And I asked his grandfather to come in, who I know had passed. And I said, your grandfather's here, and he wants you to bring you to the light. He knows that you're afraid because you feel like you failed. You didn't fail. You had a problem, a disease. And through the conversation I had with him, I wish I taped it. I just talked, and he left. I mean, it was I could feel the change in the room when it happened. And so, yeah, they do sometimes linger because they have fear of going to the light, of failure, unfinished business. But most of the time, 99% of the people pass, they go up.
Have you ever encountered an energy or source that was a negative energy, was not a positive?
Yes and no. I had a moment in time when I was young. I heard a voice that sounded demonic, and it was coming out of my speaker, and I didn't know who I was at the time. Scared me to death. Run out of the room, out of my apartment I was living in. and I had to get hold of myself and said, you're okay. This is not going to hurt you. You're fine. That was my first encounter. And it was fine after that. As long as I faced my fears is what I told myself. So I did have a house I was clearing one time, and it was definitely demonic or some kind of a poltergeist, but it wasn't a good poltergeist. And I had brought a young man with me to help, just to have me help hold the energy of the house. There was some weird things going on in the house that I didn't like. And they had two young sons, and the one son was being bothered by this entity. And I was in the young son's room and I'm clearing it. And all of a sudden, the woman who owned the house, the man I brought along, and the young boy all started to scream. And I'm looking, going, what's going on? Because I'm in my world. They said, did you hear? And did you hear it? I said, no. They said, she's not afraid of me. If you bring fear, you got to bring your faith, bring in your guides and angels. I actually bring Saint Benedict in because he's the patron saint to the Catholic exorcisms. I carry his medal with me, but I always bring in my faith and my love and my light. And I do feel protected. Of course, I will never go into a situation I feel is above my pay grade. I do know my pay grade. So I don't go into certain homes. I'll tell people, I go, I don't think I can help you. You know, I think I'd call Ghostbusters on this puppy. So really what I do is I know when I can clear it and I know when I can't. So, but I have encountered, I do believe there is dark energy out there, just like we have light. If there's dark, there's light, there's light, there's dark. And so through the light, it'll dissolve the dark if you hold it. It's about love, once again.
Is it easier? Is it easier for you to do a group session as an individual session?
You know, it's really, God, if you had asked me that like 10 years ago, I would have said, oh my God, going in front of a group. It's really funny. It depends on who the group is, what I'll say. I am being mentored by Joe Scheel, who is a beautiful spirit artist, and I love to draw spirit alive. That's one of the gifts in my bag I get to do. I try to capture their essence. I am not an artist, but I do capture the essence of the spirit. So you see more evidence that they're with us. So getting up, we have to go once or twice a year, we have to go, and we have to stand up in front of our peers and do our shtick and read the audience. That is scary. But getting in front of a group of 100 people, I don't know, I'm fine. I love doing it. I love being on stage. To me, it's my passion. And I do a lot of group readings, from small groups to I've done 100 plus. Spirit never fails you if you ask. And it's so funny because sometimes you're like, I have somebody here and no one claims them. But it comes around the corner, and about before the ending of the show, somebody will raise their hand. They go, remember that person? Or they'll call you later and tell you the same thing. I even had it was very interesting. Had a group reading. This man came forward. I described him. Go, this guy's on stage. He is not tall, but he is big in stature, has a big voice. And I go, he's here for someone. And no one wanted to claim. I go, he's wearing a big suit. He feels like a conductor of something. And I could feel his energy because my head spins as I feel the energy connection. No one claimed it. I'm like, God, this guy is here. And I could see his face. I could see everything about him. And I'm like, how come no one claimed him? But I went on, moved on. I get a call the next day from this woman, and she goes, remember that guy you talked about? Well, my husband, who was the only male there, was for him. It was his boss. I go, well, first off, who was he? Because he was somebody. Zig Ziglar, she says. And I'm like, I kept seeing the big suit. I go, why was he wearing such a big suit? Because he wasn't a big guy. He lost weight and he didn't want to buy a new suit, she said. I was so disappointed. I wanted to talk to Zig. But it was really, I always get amazed at what happens on stage, and I'm just so blessed. And I'm as amazed as everybody else in the audience. I'm like, how did that happen? And so great stories come out of the audience. So
But a contact like Zig Ziglar, can they be more persistent? Can they just keep coming and coming and coming?
well, you know what's funny is this is what I know for sure from my reading and from my 12 or 13 years doing this. They will see if the door is open, they will show up. I had a beautiful soul. I had a woman come see me. I drew this young man, but I knew it wasn't for her. And I go, do you know this young man? And she looks and she goes, it's my friend's son. I said, I just drew the light. I drew the sun around him. And I go, he wants to let his family know he's okay. And that was right before Christmas. The young man died with his own hands. And it was very sad. And the family came and sat with me in January. And they said that message changed their whole Christmas. So here comes a young man knowing the mom's best friend is coming to see a medium. And he goes, I'm sneaking in. He drops in, I draw his picture, and then that brings the whole thing through. It happens more than you think. They'll give me a message to give to somebody, but I don't ever impose myself. But somehow the message weaves to the right person. And it brings healing, especially when healing is involved. It's important. You just don't know. I had one time this is when I was brand new at this stuff, and I wasn't sure of my gifts, but I had done some healing work on this woman. She came to see me. And this was years and years ago. And I go, and I sat down, I go, does your husband have a friend does your husband have maps all over his house? Like he's maps. She goes, yeah, in his office. He's a cartographer. And I'm like, oh, well, his best friend died? Heart attack? Yeah. I'm like, oh, he wants to let his wife know a message. And I gave her all the information. But the biggest thing he kept saying to me is, you must tell her, I love her. I love her. I love her. I love her. Kept repeating it and rubbing her back. And I love her. So I go, can you get the message to her? And she goes, I really don't know her well, but we'll see. I forget about it. About 3 weeks later, I get a call from the woman. She goes, you won't believe what happened. I go, oh, what happened? She goes, well, I gave her all the information you told me. She had written it down. And the woman sat there for 5 minutes, the longest 5 minutes of my client's life. And she said, how would that person know that unless my husband was there? And then she tells her the rest of the story. And the rest of the story was her husband, before he had passed, had an affair. Mm-hmm. And this woman, the wife, doubted he ever loved her. So that man kept coming through he kept trying to get the message, and somehow he got it through me to get it to her, And it changed her life. What do you do? Yeah. I do believe it was about love. Once again, I always only bring in the light. If there's a dark entity, I will not allow them in unless there's some healing about it. But usually there's not. To do this work, you have to have your heart in the game. A good medium always brings in evidence. And evidence doesn't mean your grandma's here and she likes to bake cookies. Hey, your grandma's name is Maria Rosa, and she died of this, and this is what her purse looks like and her house looks like. They'll walk me through their houses, by the way. I'll do a remote viewing of a person's home they're proud of, and I'll walk through it and I will describe the house to the client. Oh, she wants me to come in. I got to describe the house. She wants me to see her house. And the clients always say they love their houses. Sometimes they're not that clean. Sometimes they are. But I describe what I see and what I sense. And with that, it's the things they love, the memories they love. They bring in the memories. Even things that are kind of funny that you don't remember. I had a man sitting in front of me and they're always skeptical. I'm not dissing on men, but this guy's like this, show me. I'm at a fair and he's, show me. well, I said, your brother or your sister came through, and I go, we're talking, and I brought in how she died and who she was and described her personality. And then I said, she's talking about the Christmas tree and the joke. And the guy goes, I have no idea what you're talking about. I'm like, she keeps showing me the Christmas tree and laughter. It's a joke. Then all of a sudden he goes, oh, my brother one time peed on the Christmas tree and we never stopped laughing about it. That's pretty damn good evidence. I'm like, oh, I'll give you the rest. So once you capture them with the evidence, then you can bring in the messages, because the spirit has been anchored and the spirit is there, and they're going to give those messages that people will hear. And it's always, hey, we see you struggle right now. You're going to be okay. Or, honey, I'm close by, always talking to you. Just listen. Messages of why they left. Always get that. You know, if they had a choice to leave. I had a beautiful one where I had a mother who lost her son, and he died in the, I could feel he died in the hospital, and he had chosen to leave. Sometimes you have it out or you can stay. He chose to leave, not to fight. And I told her that. He was about 30 something, but he wouldn't really come close enough for me to see him, and I couldn't describe him. I just feel his energy and what he was like. So I described that. Then finally, he shows me this big old, big tie-dye shirt. Does your son like tie-dye? Because he's showing me a tie-dye shirt, and he doesn't have very good cleanliness at that time. I felt that he was a shut-in. She goes, yeah. I go, oh. Then he puts it on and he can't fit into it. And before this all happened, I forgot to, before this all happened, before she stepped into the room, I had drawn a picture of a whale, and I was told to write the whale. I'm like, okay. So I asked her when we started the reading, I go, do you understand the whale? And she goes, no. So I said, okay, it's going to come through. I don't know why, but I drew it for a reason. They told me to. So what happened was, when he showed me he couldn't put the shirt on, he was too heavy for it. I said, was your son morbidly obese? She starts to cry, and she goes, yes. I go, aha. You must watch the movie The Whale. And through that, you're going to understand the rest of the messages of why he left. And it'll be very painful for you, and I'm sorry. I go, but he had chosen to leave because he couldn't deal with his body any longer. It's amazing what they can take from your memory banks and bring it full forward to bring the best message. And that mother texted me back later that night and thanked me profusely and said she watched it, she cried, and she understood. It's profound, and a good medium needs to do that profound work. And when I teach mediumship, it's all about ethics, about how to do the work, how to bring the stories through in a way that is woven into a beautiful storyline. I love to draw the picture of the people in front of me. And 90% I hit on the essence. Sometimes I'm like, oh, well, I thought he had a little bit thinner face. Sometimes I forget the glasses.
Stick figure.
Yeah, no stick. I draw kind of cartoony. It's very interesting, but I do draw well enough that they know who it is. And like the young man I drew, they knew it was their son. It looked just like him. My girlfriend, the girl who saw me, she showed me a picture of him afterward. And I'm like, whoa, that is way too close not to be their son. So love is always, the one thing I always want to say too is when you lean into your heart, and it's always, leaning into your heart and living, you will never fail when you go up. If you make all your decisions based on an act of love or love for yourself or love of others, but mostly you have to love yourself first and then put it out there, the love to everybody else, you will not fail in this lifetime, because I do believe this is a lifetime of many. It's all about love in the end. So whenever you're making big decisions, I always tell people, bring in the love card, look at it thoroughly, know why you're doing it. Don't bring in the ego, because the ego will lead you astray, and you're going to be coming up and seeing me when you're gone, so I can tell your loved one what you're sorry about. I prefer you to do it on earth. That way it's easier. It's not so messy. It might get misconstrued too, the message, because we're doing, I call it charade sometimes, because you're getting that charade thing going like, okay, I see this. Why do I see this? A pickle jar. Tell me more.
Now, the healing is, I guess it starts with a more emotional healing, and then that
Yeah.
can progress to actually relieving pressure on people.
You know, it's interesting. When I do a reading, I like to start, like, call it organic. Sometimes I just do straight mediumship straight up, and it goes by quickly. But sometimes I do an organic reading. I like to know who you are at a human design level. And that's a type of energy, who you are when you came into this world, like to give you a little knowledge about you. Then I go into what I'm feeling about what you're struggling with today. And then I always bring a loved one in. And they always talk too. Oh, Susie. And they'll, talk about Susie a little bit. And I say, your mom's here and this is what she wants you to know to help you out. So healing can occur in many, many ways, but you have to be open to the process of it. And it might even just crack your heart open a little bit, where you start to wonder, maybe I was wrong on that. Or maybe my dad was not as bad as I thought he was. They come and say they're sorry for the interesting things. I just, it's healing occurs in so many different ways, as long as you're open to it. And you want to be healed. A lot of people want to hold on to the past and not shift. And it's a true shift. It's an awakening, I call it. And I'm going to be teaching a class in awakening in the February. We're going to do it online. I have another medium and I work together as spiritual advisors, and we have a really beautiful flow. But healing occurs when you want to look at yourself and then have an open heart to look at others. And, Mark, my biggest take on this, my dad taught me. I had a mom who struggled mentally. She was pretty hard all the time. She even tried to suffocate me at one of her worst moments when I was 3 years old. And thank God she didn't. I kind of fought her off and she woke up. But I was really angry at my mom growing up. I was always a mother. She was a daughter, I felt like. And my dad always told me, he goes, Carm, you need to forgive your mom. I go, well, how do I do that? I don't want to. I was pounding my feet. I was so angry. He goes, first off, your feet are going to really hurt when you get older if you don't. And I'm like, okay, what else? And I go, why do I want to forgive? He goes, it's weighing you down. It doesn't serve your soul and doesn't show your light. And this is my dad, who's very Catholic, went to church every day, quiet man, stuttered, didn't say much. So when he spoke, poignant words, he said, you need to put your mother in the wheelchair. I go, what do you mean? He goes, put your mom in the wheelchair. He goes, when you see someone in the wheelchair, don't you wonder what happened? We need to wonder what happened to the people who hurt us and why they are the way they are. We need to look at them compassionately, like we do somebody in a wheelchair. We need to find out more of the story so we can heal our story by compassion and love. It's kind of EMDR therapy, but outside, the spirit's doing it.
You have clients that come to you repeatedly or come to you continually?
Oh yeah, I have clients for the years who see me. They see me once a year, once every 6 months. I will not become someone's guru. So if I feel you're leaning on me to get to knowledge of where you need to be, I send you away, or I give you homework and say, I'm not going to answer that question. This is what you need to do to find out for yourself. I don't want to be anybody's guru. I want you to help you connect to your heart so you can figure it out. But I have clients who come and see me a lot. Once a year, my whole business has been word of mouth, a little bit on Facebook and promotion. And it just, people tell people. And I have clients all over the world. I do Zoom calls. I have clients in France. I have clients in Canada, hoping to have some in Ireland. And it's just amazing. I have all over the United States. It's always fun. I always ask, where are you at? Is it cold there? Is it hot? So, and it's funny because I love my clients. I fall in love with each of them because you have to love your client just as much as you love the spirit who shows up. So you find the inside beauty of that client. And We have fun. I mean, my clients leave, they may be laughing, they may be crying, but they feel lighter and more connected to their soul.
You may get overwhelmed if you invite all the Irish into your.
I just went to Ireland. I loved it. And I'm kind of contemplating going back to want to write a book. And I'm reading a beautiful book right now, Anam Cara. It's by John Donahue. And it's one of the best books on love I've ever read. And I'm going to incorporate his words of wisdom in my book, along with a few other. I love books. I'm a bookie. I have a circle group. When you take a class of mine, you can join the circle. And we support each other as a tribe. So I have an online circle and in-person circle. And so we practice mediumship, psychic, or just support. Some people come just to be in the energy of. And it's people from all over the country on my online. It's beautiful. And I love when I teach. And I teach, sometimes I've taught in Newport Beach, California. I've taught in Phoenix. I teach here in Colorado Springs. And if you want a class and you can bring the students, I might show up. Just call me and we can talk, because I love teaching. That's my biggest, I think it's my biggest gift. And I was told that my whole life. I was a teacher. I have a teaching degree from college. And made me laugh. I never taught with my teaching degree. I got out of college and had to go student teach in a really bad area of LA. And my father told me, he goes, get a normal job. You can't do that. So I got hired at a great job and went on my merry way. And now I'm using my teaching degree.
Okay. And you said you have a group that's open to the general public?
Well, no, it's not general public. It's if you take a class or I feel that you have gifts and you already understand the lingo we use and the knowledge of spirit and how we come through it. I do interview people. We meet twice a month. You know, I charge a small fee to be in the circle, and you can come to the twice a month or once a month or just get the information. Because I always usually 90% of the circle time, I do write something up on whatever the subject is of the night. And that way you can put it into your, I call it into your journal or into your book of learning. Because I do feel I'm channeled a lot of times when I'm teaching from the higher source. I see Jesus, or I love Jesus, and I do see him. I feel I hear him and I sense him and I feel him. So I ask for his words now and then. That sounds a little weird, but you know, if I can see your spirit, I think I can see Jesus.
Yeah.
And he wants us to all see him, by the way.
Right.
He wants us all to see him and feel him and love him and understand him.
Now, there are various types of mediumship.
There's physical mediumship, mental medium. I'm a mental medium. Mental mediums talk to the loved ones who have passed. Physical mediumship is a whole nother animal. It's moving objects. It's bringing through cytoplasm. It's a dedicated type of mediumship that you have to sit and do it with a small group. I've never done it. I'm kind of intrigued by it, but I'm not sure if I have the time for it because I'm very, very busy. But I have a couple of friends who are leaning into it right now. And but mental mediumship is feeling spirit via emotionally, mentally, just knowing. They might see. I don't see physical spirit. I see it in my mind's eye. I'm a strong claircognizant. I just say things and I don't even know why I say it. I call it vomiting words. There's also clairaudient. I've had a crazy clairaudient one once. Had a woman sitting, and I tell this story a lot, so some of my people who are listening probably go, oh, she goes again. She's telling that story. And the clairaudient, I had a woman sitting across from me, and she wanted to hear from her parents, but this woman came through. But it wasn't a woman, it was a male, but he was a gay male. So he presented as a woman, like a female energy is what I felt. And I described him, I said, this is how you know him. You worked with him. You both worked in the same hair salon, I believe. And I feel like dancing at Dylan's. And she's like, I grew up in LA. And she goes, I grew up in LA. So we're talking about that. And then she goes, well, he's not dead. It was her best friend in that era. And I said, I heard him come in my ear and whisper in my ear, yes, I am. And I'm like, well, I want to give you the messages, but maybe you should. When's the last time you talked to him? She goes, oh, about 2 years ago. I said, maybe you should call him. 15 minutes after the reading, she sends me his obit. He had died 2 weeks before. I was like, that's my clairaudient story. But I do hear songs. I love songs. So I get a lot of songs coming in. I had a woman one time prance into our reading, singing whatever Lola wants, Lola gets. And her mother and grandmother both said, or mother and daughter both said, that's how she always entered a room.
Yeah.
So that's clairaudient. Clairsentient, you feel the person, you feel them. There's a lot of clairs. I teach them all. But a good medium will probably start out with one clair and then grow the others, or some of them come with all of them. And I'm, I call myself just, I just feel very blessed to do the work. I smile every day when I get to talk to people up there and down here. I even had my father-in-law come into a reading once. That was a weird one. I believe that it's a small world up there. I had a woman come see me and I said, there's 3 gentlemen here. There's a man named Gerald, another man, and another man. I kind of went into it and my father-in-law stepped next to Gerald. And through that reading, I go, they must either know each other or very similar creatures. So as I was reading, I found out they were all in the Air Force. My father-in-law was in the Air Force. Then all of a sudden I saw Atwater, California, there were bombers, that's the bomber division in Atwater. So I said, well, they must have known each other. I don't know who he is, but must have known each other. Well, my sister-in-law a week later asks me, she goes, Carm, does my dad ever come in a reading? I'm like, that is weird. Yes, just last week. I go, why did you ask me that? She goes, I don't know. And I go, there's this man who he was standing by, and I don't know how they were connected, but they're connected. She goes, what's the name? And I said, his name was Pat Patterson. I can say that, family already approved. And she goes, she got quiet and she goes, the Pattersons were my parents' best friends in Atwater, California. Small world. Everything is a small world.
But that's
Isn't that crazy?
that it suggests to me that maybe even in heaven we're in neighborhoods rather than, well, probably something of that nature. You're in a group or.
It's to me, it's beautiful because I do have people who kind of connect together. They may not have known each other in life, but they're connected now in death because of the client sitting here.
Right.
And they're friends. And the people who have had the worst, say they husband and wife, and they got divorced and the wife never forgave the husband. Well, guess what they do up in heaven? They make amends. They figure it out. They see the bigger picture. They know what happened. When you go up to heaven, you get to see the bigger picture of everything, all the good stuff you did, all the bad stuff you said and did. You get to feel it. Some people have to really physically feel it, like that one woman I talked about. That is why you always want to err on the side of love and try to be your highest self, err on the high side, not the low side. And forgiveness is good. So when I go up there, I'm like, okay, now, what have I done in the past? I need to clear up today so I don't have to have that whole scene up there. So live your greatest life here so you can smile when you go up. And I even had a client, beautiful woman, very quiet and meek. And when I read her, I just could see white shrouds. I keep seeing these people with white shrouds on. And she smiled and she goes, I took care of the HIV/AIDS patients in the early 80s when no one would take care of them. I wrapped them in the white shrouds when they passed. She'll get a big accolade when she goes up, let me tell you. She's going to have huge amounts of people coming for her to say, we love you. Thank you.
Now, I'm thinking that the Nixons and the Reagans, while they're presidents, were quite famous for consulting with their mediums.
We know.
What were they consulting about?
Well, I think first off, people, when you're in that kind of field of notoriety and exposure, you're fearful. Or, like, for instance, Nancy Reagan. She never turned to astrology until her husband was shot. And by the way, I'm going to give a big shout out. Go see the movie Reagan. Phenomenal movie. Phenomenal movie. But she had fear. She had no control of Ronnie, as she calls him. She had no control of protecting him. So she goes to a beautiful astrologist who's one of the top, was probably the top astrologist, I'm sure, and would ask, should he travel here? Should he do this? Should he do that? Because it gave her some control and feeling of security. And, there's always a lot of evidence. And astrological, I believe, is a really good field. To me, it's, I have some really good people I work with. Sean White, Chasing Chiron, is a beautiful astrologist. Highly recommend him. And I believe a lot of people now, more than ever, are opening up and looking at the bigger picture about energy, about how things work. And I do believe the planets, just like they have the moon, you get a full moon, you get the craziest people. I used to waitress and I would get the craziest clients on the full moon waiting on them. And more births happen on the full moon. So there is a push and pull of the magnetism of the planets on us. And knowing who you are at a deep level, and I recommend this to all my clients, find out your astrological, your whole chart. I am, a Libra sun, I'm a Capricorn rising, and I am a Leo moon. And so gives me a lot of knowledge of why I like to be a leader, why a Libra, I'm always balancing things. And, I honor all my, I have a lot of people I promote. There's a lot of good people out there, mediums. I have other mediums. If I can't see them, I send them to other people who I know are good workers. I have people who do energy work who are amazing, Reiki people, healing touch people. And right now, I used to tell people when I was helping teach healing touch, I tell the students, I say, we're on a wave. Right now, we're sitting in the ocean on our surfboards, and the ocean's a little quiet. You can see some waves building, but we're here. We're sitting here because we're going to be able to catch the wave that comes in, and we're ready. We're going to be putting our boards, moving it forward to shore so we can catch that wave. And that's what it is today. That wave is here. People wanting to know more. They're awakening up. They're seeing things that are not truthful or what they were told were the truth. So they're now questioning everything. I think you should see a medium or a psychic or a good spiritualist once a year, kind of like your doctor.
Probably more helpful than your doctor.
Sometimes, yeah, I think so.
We have a chat question, and I just want to sort of roll it. It opens up a couple of topics. How many generations within a family group would you think you get contacted? Grandparents or beyond, great grandparents, or just.
I think it goes maybe great grandparents if there's a connection. Like there's, I have my daughter-in-law has a beautiful grandmother who's also a great grandmother. I think it has to be either there's one step away or two steps away, but I think I have talked to people who I've never met who are part of my family lineage, and verified some of the things they told me. It was very strange. I have a very strange background, but I'll talk about that's another whole story. If it's meant for healing, it will happen. And it's for the highest good of you. It's for the highest good of you. I've had clients who I've read and who are, some people who are celebrities, and I get celebrities in, I'm like, this is crazy, but they're just people, just people. You don't know, it's all about understanding the energy of the person and representing them in the right way. Because it's funny, Joe Shiel always says, you're not working for the client across from you, you're working for the client up here. This person who lowers their energy to come down to the halfway point for you to go up and bring in the messages, they did all the work. You just happen to be the funnel to help this client in front of you. And they happen to be playing, the client happens to be playing in front of you, but this is a client. This is a person you're honoring.
Brings me to a different related topic is, do you believe in reincarnation?
100%.
Okay.
Best book you could ever read is Many Lives, Many Masters, Brian Weiss. There's a lot more books out there, but that's a great starting point for people. You haven't read it. Brian Weiss was I think, atheist, agnostic, Jewish person. And he was a head of psychiatry board in Florida. I think it was the 70s, early 80s. I'm not sure exactly. I can't remember. And he had one client that changed his whole life. And now he is the authority on past life regression. Oprah had him on, give him the old shout out. But I will tell you that book, all his books are amazing. But if you want to start with the first one, it's Many Lives, Many Masters, Brian Weiss. And I believe we are reincarnated. I had a very interesting, I did a Dolores Cannon quantum healing regression. And through that, I found out it was my grandfather, who I never knew. He died when my dad was 9 years old. And he was not a character we all liked. And I'm like, oh, I don't know if I like this.
Right.
So I don't know if I'm making up for a bad time, or maybe I just need to understand him better. Not 100% yet, but I do think it's, there's a lot of karmic stuff we're working out from past lives with our mates, our loved ones, our friends. And I think you got to be open to everything.
Okay, very good. And I know you said you there's an association of mediums that meet twice a year, I believe you said.
Well, Joe Shiel runs, it's the Journey Within Church in Pompton Lakes, New Jersey. And it's a spiritualist church, and he is the minister or pastor, I don't know what you call it. Janet Nahavik, who I took classes from, amazing medium, little ex-nun, most detailed medium I've ever seen in my life. She could give you your uncle's license plate number probably. But Joe worked with her, and they asked him when she passed away last year to take over the church. And through his teaching, he mentors 20 people a year. He hand selects them, you apply. And our group, we converged. We're converging for our last meetup in September, in a few weeks. And so there's 20 of us, and there's going to be 20 new ones coming in for his next group. And we practice mediumship. And that's the group I get scared about getting up in front of. And I will tell you, it's a beautiful church. If you ever want to go to attend a Sunday service, I recommend it. If you're in the New Jersey area, I got to say New Jersey.
Definitely.
But I love it. It's just, I never got to see a spiritualist church before until I saw a service there. And I'm like, wow, amazing. And the people are just beautiful. And so I highly recommend their classes. They have beautiful teachers teaching online classes, in-person classes. They also have in-person mediumship on certain nights. You just go online to thejourneywithin.org, I believe. And I'll be there in a few weeks, holding court with a bunch of my friends who are mediums. Imagine the room full of 30 to 40 mediums, because a lot more all the past groups come in too to practice and critique each other. Could I have gone deeper?
That's not fair.
I know, it's scary. It's so scary. It's so funny because I'll get up in front of a group of 100 people and do a reading and then get up in front of them. Oh God, get in your head. It's like, huh? In front of Joe too. Joe, you know, when you have a mentor, you kind of go, oh God, scary.
And what are the entities that are going to blackball me that day, right?
No, I always trust spirit. It always comes out good. And it's funny because sometimes my messages, it's funny, the first person I didn't go with, I should have gone with instead of the second person I went with. So you just don't know because you get in your head a little bit too. As a medium, when you're doing your work and you feel very confident, I have no problem reading in front of groups. I feel very confident. I love it. And but when you're reading in front of your peers, it is a little, it puts you into that more of the fear, which blocks your energy, which blocks your reading. So you have to trust, ask spirit, come through, here I am, bring me the best messages, the highest messages, and make sure there's some evidence and some fun in it. I like fun. I like to laugh when I'm on stage. I always believe if you're not having fun, why do it? And so I always tell people, don't forget the F word, ... fun. So I keep thinking I want to make shirts out of that logo.
Yeah, that's the best. Mass marketing through t-shirts.
Yeah. Heart to heart medium. Don't forget the F word.
So what else do you want to tell us that we haven't asked you yet?
Oh, I talked a lot already. You know, what I always like to have people know how to find a good medium. And this is important. Not everybody has it. I call everybody has a medium and medium has someone. I feel like my clients are brought to me divinely. And you need to look for someone who first off has been recommended to you. You have to never find a scary medium. If you leave and you're scared, you didn't see a good medium. You should never leave scared. You should leave with peace and love in your heart and knowledge, and that there is more than just here in this lifetime. To find a good medium, I always recommend researching, asking people, and people you know who you trust. And like we have here I'm in Colorado Springs. We have the 411 of the 719, and the 719 is our area code. So people all the time will go on that and go, I need a medium. And so sometimes you get people like you'll say they'll start naming names, and I'm always in that mix of group. It's who's working the field too. It's like who's out there more often. And it's funny because then you get the hits like you're doing evil work. You shouldn't be asking for this stuff, which I don't worry about. I always tell people if the devil leaves you better, when somebody walks into my office and they leave more connected to Christ or Jesus or who they believe, I've done my job. I don't think the devil does that. So, but the interesting thing is find a good medium and make sure they bring in evidence, but be open. Don't close yourself off. A lot of people are afraid. So the first thing a good medium should do is to build a little bit of a, just a camaraderie with you when you sit down. Like they should tell you how they work, who they are, and then tell them, you know, let's get to it and make them feel comfortable. So the spirit will talk and they will hear it, because sometimes psychic amnesia happens very easy. And so with that, it's just, I want people to look for the ethical mediums. There is a group out there, oh my gosh. They certify mediumship. Very hard. It's a blind certification. Joe Sheil is one, and I'm trying to think of the group and I cannot think of it right now. But they did it. A couple had lost I think their daughter, and they got kind of shysted by a bad medium. And so they started kind of researching it and doing some studies, and then they formed an organization in their daughter's name. And what they do is they certify mediums, and it's like a double blind certification. Like you don't know what you're being handed or given, and you go through the evidence. And if you pass, you're certified, and most don't pass.
Okay.
Yeah. That's one of my goals in the future. I know a lot of the good mediums are certified. John Holland, Joe Sheil, Kim Russo. And there's about 28. And what they do is they do grief groups twice a year. They'll fly to some place who had lost people who had lost children to death. And they sit and work with the clients who have come in to bring in their family members and to bring healing. It's a beautiful organization, and I cannot think of it for the life of me. Old age.
Probably just searching certified mediumship will bring us up some
It
information.
should. Yeah. Yes. If you even show up, I think if you just, look up Joe Shield, I think it'll say that he is certified via ...
So our arcade boardwalk mediums,
They're good ones sometimes.
maybe a little light on talent, possibly.
Well, everybody has to, this is what I'm never bashing a medium or a psychic. But if you're just out on the town and you see a psychic sign flashing,
yeah,
you might have a fun time. But if you're really hurting, you really want to find somebody who has practiced their skills, who I think people who are word of mouth are the best. I don't know why I think that. I don't do a lot of advertising myself. I'm very busy, so it is all word of mouth. Oh, I heard, people say, oh, so-and-so told me to call you. And I get that on a daily basis. And I'm not everybody's medium. I have my clientele is a certain clientele, and I love reading for people who have never had a reading. That's my favorite. Because I give them they leave with a happy face and not a scared face. And they, I've had some people come see me after a bad reading, and I kind of have to help them overcome it. But there are some who are good and some are bad, or not working in the light.
You have clients that I guess they're just repressed and they really don't want to get answers. I mean, they've come to you, but they essentially don't want to get answers from.
I actually had a couple, and I fired them. I said, listen, I don't think you're open for this, or this is the right timing for you. When your heart's more open, I'd love to see you. Here's your money back. And thank you very much. Bye-bye. And you know what? It is what it is. It's a beautiful work. The people who do honor it and grow their mediumship. And I don't think I'll ever stop growing my mediumship till the day I die, and whenever that is. I think the more you have this skill, the more you want to lean into learning more about it. I want to teach it more, which I do. I teach a lot. I've done a few classes in teaching mediumship 1, mediumship 2. That's why I love going to Joe's, because I learn a lot from other teachers. So when you think you know it all, you don't. So it's like anything. It's like, be curious. You got to be curious in this lifetime for everything and anything. And curiosity doesn't kill the cat.
If somebody's looking for a teacher, they probably go to the certified mediumship to.
You can. I don't know all of them teach. I teach mediumship. I actually will kind of peruse who you are to make sure you're ready. I don't think anybody can be a medium professionally. I do, you can go to, and you can find there's a lot of good mediums out there who teach. And there's some ones who are very famous. I always say fame is a 4-letter word, could be scary. And you just find the right person who, I believe that you kind of intuit into your energy and you feel like, oh, this is the right move for me. And I don't think people make mistakes. So if you find a bad person and then you find the right medium, it was supposed to happen that way.
I'm just going to throw this question out there. How is it that Nostradamus was so productive? I mean, years and years and years,
There's a lot of prophets in this world, even today. And, there's a lot of prophets who have predicted so much. I don't know. It's, Nostradamus, he devoted his life to it. I mean, you think of all the quatrains he wrote, but then it's also interpreted. just, you know, when you interpret things, words can get lost, things can be misconstrued or construed to be part of it. So I'm always open to seeing things and say, that's interesting. I wonder if that's true. That's interesting. Let's see what happens. You know, we all get hits now and then. I don't think I should take that bus. And then the
Yeah.
bus crashes. We all
Yeah,
have the ability to feel if we use our intuition. I teach intuitive training so you can understand how you intuit. We all intuit.
but you're certainly dedicated to, just
I love it.
thousands and thousands and thousands quatrains, right?
Yeah, he's amazing. I mean, you know, you think, I mean, he's still, his energy is still processing today. If you look at his energy, see, to me, it's the flow of energy. And so the soul, when you have a reading, it's all the soul, it's a flow of energy to the middle. It's the soul, his soul is still prophetizing in his words, everything, even the thing you touch here has energy. A good medium can do psychometry. May not be their favorite thing to do, but psychometry, you read energy. You can read energy of a house, energy of an object, energy of, you know, you can even by holding someone's hand, that's kind of psychometry. You can read their energy.
Is that the ability to see the aura? The psychometry?
You know, no, well, yes. Some people see the energy of people. I don't see auras. I
Okay.
can if I really focus on if it's a different type of background where I can usually see the lining. But a lot of people see the colors, the chakra colors in the auric field, the outer layers. Everybody has gifts. It's like, what's your gift? What are you using it for? And are you recognizing it? And I love auras. I work in the auric field, but I don't see the field. I don't see physically people, but I see them here. That's all I need to know because I can see them in my mind's eye. It's very interesting. Think about that.
Yes. Yes. I know I mean, only once in my lifetime did I see the person's aura, and it was
What
just
color was it?
amazing.
What color was it?
It was a bright neon green.
What were
And
they doing when you were seeing them too? And what were you?
well, she was a psychic herself, and she was doing a reading. There were about 7 or 8 people there, and she was doing readings individually on them.
Oh,
And I was sort of out of sorts that night. I was, so I was watching her while she was doing others, and I said, when she got to me, I said, before we start, I can see your aura. I mean, it's just shooting off of you in all directions as you move. And she goes, yeah, so my friends see it all the time. They call me Froggy because it's so green. So,
well, I believe the green is showing her heart energy because green is heart energy in the green chakra. And she has to work in the heart of love to do it.
oh, absolutely. Essentially, she left our area to go work with hospice people,
Oh,
and, I guess her father was passing, so she worked with him, and then she just continued to work in hospice with people to prepare them.
wow.
You know.
Love it. I don't know. I always think it's interesting where you end up and where you land and when you start. And if you're open and curious, you just kind of go with the river flow of energy. And I'm always being shown, and if I trust, I move toward it. So I really, any other questions, thoughts?
Well, I'm sort of running out. We've been flowing here pretty good.
We had fun. I do
yeah.
want to recommend if you want, I'm going to be setting up classes for 25. I haven't put them on my webpage. I'm reorganizing my webpage this month and I'm putting out classes for intuitive training. I'm doing one in October, which is filled. So that's here in the Colorado Springs area. But I will come and depending on where the place is, location, etc. But I also will be doing online classes. I do that now kind of anyway when I'm teaching in Circle. And I'll be out in New Jersey, 19th through the 21st. Looking forward to that and practicing my skills, honing. And I really, really appreciate you, Mark, and also Ernie for inviting me on today.
It's
Beautiful.
okay. And what is your webpage, or is it a
Carm
Facebook page?
Well, it's well, you can go to my Facebook page and find it, Carm O'Sullivan, or go to Carm O'Sullivan, no apostrophe, just carmosullivan.com. Osullivan, and it's CARM like in Mary. My name is Carmel, and I'm named after the lady, the lady of Mount Carmel. My mother was Mary Carmel, so I inherited that name, and it's a beautiful name. I used to hate it when I was growing up, and now I love it. So, but I go by Carm because it gets massacred. But I appreciate if anybody wants a reading, please contact me via my webpage or contact me via text. I'm booked out about a month and a half, 2 months almost, but I'm trying to catch up. And I love my work, and I love meeting the people along the way.
Absolutely. I'm so happy that we had the opportunity to talk to you. It's been really very enjoyable, very
Thank you.
informative.
Thank you.
I hope to speak to you again, whether as a group or whether
Amen.
personally.
I love it. I would love to talk anytime, I'm a talker.
Yeah.
So I appreciate it. I love New York City. It's one of my favorite places to visit, and I hope to get there maybe when I'm in New Jersey, but I don't know. We'll see what timing does.
Well, I know after we spoke to you the other day, and we looked up the Pompton Lakes, the church and the journey within, and we're kind of excited to get over there one Sunday,
You should. I will tell you, it is a beautiful, it feels like a little schoolhouse, has the most beautiful energy in it. And the people connected are all heartfelt people. So my shout out.
Very, very good. So thank you very much.
Thank you. I appreciate you so much. And thank you.
Very entertaining. And to everybody else listening, next Tuesday at 7 p.m., we will have another conversation. Thank you all.
Thank you. Bye.